Hey everybody, we are at our Bigfoot Campout number 2. We are here just beside my dad's motorhome. He came up on Monday. The rest of us came up yesterday. He's had some activity here the last few nights. Down just beyond the motorhome is where our tents and our kitchen area is, and we didn't hear anything down there last night other than a couple of whistles. But this morning, here beside my dad's motorhome, we have a tree down. And if you look right here, you can see how fresh this wood is. Right there. Okay, got it on camera. So you can see that is solid wood right there, and it broke. And you can see how fresh this is just by looking at how crisp this edge is right here. I'm not sure how well that's showing up with the shadows. But yeah, this is really new. And then, to get it even better, right here we have this rock, and this is a big rock. I can't even begin to budge it, but once again you can see how crisp this edge is right here. This was very recently moved, and right down in there, well, I suppose the camera's not really going to pick it up very well, but you can see where the breeze hasn't even really dried it out in there yet. It is still a little bit damp. So yeah, this big rock got shifted that way. This tree got pushed that way, and this is some of our first real activity here at our campout. Okay, so this shows the tree, what Dad saw when he came out this morning. This was not here. It's really obvious that it's sticking out of this little cluster of trees. And another thing I'd like to point out is this is a really thick little cluster of trees. This was a small dead one in the middle of it, and although we have had a little bit of a breeze going, I don't think that a breeze could have caught that tree mixed in with that cluster of bigger trees enough to break that wood and push it down. And even if that had been the wind that brought this down, how did it move that rock right next to it? This is just really cool. Okay, so last night we went down by the cabin and did a little tour around Greenwater, and after we got back, Larry and Sandy and I were sitting here by the fire, and we heard a couple vocalizations, and Lee was back first. She heard something. Why don't you tell us what you heard?
I was real quiet. I just heard a yell, obviously Bigfoot yell, it sounded like, and it was in the distance a bit, but definitely was something out there.
Cool. And Sandy, describe what you heard last night.
Well, I heard two different yell-type screams. It wasn't a whoop. It wasn't whooping. And so it was like kind of like a scream, but not like a witch's scream. It was like a hollering or something like that. But
I thought it sounded kind of screechy.
Huh?
I thought it sounded almost screechy.
I agree. It was a high-pitched kind of screech.
Yeah.
Two of
them.
Probably 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
Apart?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And it was distant.
Yeah, it was distant.
Yeah. I thought it sounded like it was coming from that way.
It was coming
And
from
Sandy
that
and I
way.
thought it was coming from back here.
Yeah.
I thought mine was coming from that way.
Okay.
Mine wasn't high and screechy, mine was low and deep.
Low and deep, huh? Okay. Wow. Cool.
And then you heard what you thought was a
Yeah.
door distant.
Just a real faint, maybe as though it had moved off, or one off somewhere else was maybe responding.
And I didn't hear that one.
Yeah. It was very faint.
Yeah, I didn't hear that one either.
Yeah. Cool.
What
All right.
I think is interesting is because we're right by this creek and it's pretty noisy, and we all heard that very distinctly over
The sound of the creek, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I tried to get the pod out, but yeah, the pod would have only picked up the sound of the water, so.
It had to be powerful.
Yeah, it was.
It had to be.
It definitely wasn't human.
Yeah, that's for sure. It
Yeah.
wasn't human.
Cool.
That's my first go-to thing.
Okay, thanks. Okay, one of the interesting things that's happened here at our camp yesterday morning, just after it was daylight out, but before anybody was up, I was in my tent here with Gabby, and something woke me up. Dad and Juanita have a motorhome that's just right up through the trees on this little hill here, because they can't get the motorhome down into our camp, so they're staying up there. They have their cat Nibbles, and she's an older cat, used to being out in the woods, and she's been staying there with them. And what woke me up, what I thought was Juanita calling Nibbles. I heard it 4 times. It sounded like Juanita. It was a woman's voice going, Nibbles! Nibbles! I heard it 4 times very clearly. And I was really surprised after we got up later and I asked, did you find Nibbles? And Dad thought I was kind of crazy. He said, no, Nibbles is in here. She'd been in there all night. And nobody had been calling for her. And I said, well, I heard Juanita calling Nibbles. And he said, no, that Juanita wasn't even out of bed yet. And if she had been, Juanita doesn't really like Nibbles and would not be calling her. So we just tried a little experiment. Juanita went up there on the hill at the motorhome and called Nibbles, and from here at the tent I could not hear her. I could make out her voice that she was up there, that she was calling, but I couldn't hear what she was saying. I couldn't even hear it clear enough to tell that it was her. So we believe that we have a Bigfoot in the area who was mimicking Dad calling Nibbles, because he has stood out the motorhome door a few times and called her. And so now you gotta wonder, has Nibbles made a new friend out here? And was that friend possibly missing Nibbles or looking for breakfast? Hard to say.
You guys were talking?
No, we didn't hear any whistles.
Well, I just whistled back at him because I said, do you guys hear those whistles? And it's not that chipmunk.
So you heard whistles, and what did you see?
It was just a black blur that it moved right across, probably about, I was just looking off. It was kind of down on my eye level.
Was it coming
behind
toward
the stump.
us or going that way? Or?
No, it was coming this way.
Through the woods,
Yeah,
behind you there.
But I don't know what it was, but it was definitely a black shape.
Wow.
And I'm kind of wondering about that possible frog.
Whatever
I
that.
want to compare that to what we heard up behind your cabin that night. So I'm glad
Okay.
it got that.
That's
Cool.
up high to me.
That
I don't
sounded
know
up
about
high
you
to
guys.
me.
Yeah, it
too.
didn't
It
sound.
wasn't on the ground.
Frogs generally don't hang out in the trees.
Right.
Yeah, the squirrel's been, or the chipmunk's been, or bird, or whatever that was. But there was a whistle. There was whistles, and you guys were talking. I go, don't you hear that whistle? And you guys were just talking.
No, we missed the whistle.
Stop paying any
Sorry,
attention
Sam.
to me.
You should say, excuse me, I have an important announcement to
Hello?
make.
Oh! It's not Gabby. Is it Gabby?
That sound was her.
Yeah.
Oh,
Come on.
swim, Gabby, swim.
Swim, Gabby.
Swim, Gabby. There she is. Oh, she's gonna shake. Oh, wet dog. Oh, wet dog.
There goes my backpack.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I think we're done. We're done with Gabby swimming. Oh, wet dog. So tell me about the rock.
The rock incident was awesome experience. We were sitting at this little cove with water over it, and a lot of people went to a different place, and Lee and I were sitting together. And then before that, we were playing around with Gabby throwing rocks, right?
Throwing rocks in the river.
Yeah.
Throwing rocks in the river.
Kerplunk.
Yeah.
She was frolicking
So,
and
having fun. So when Larry and somebody else was there, Larry and Sandy, they both were walking. I got up to start walking the trail, and I noticed that my Coke can was left. So I went back to pick it up, and at that moment, I see a rock, a big rock, go into the water and splash. And at that point, I said, Lee, did you hear that? Did you see that? And what did you say?
I said, yeah. And you said, who threw that rock? And I said, those guys are over there. It has to come. It came from. I had my back turned, and this rock came flying out of the woods behind me, and it just really had a big kerplunk. And just prior to that, we had been collecting rocks together, and also been throwing rocks into the river. So we were getting up to leave. This big rock gets thrown as we're leaving.
So how big of a
so
rock?
it came out of the woods on our side of the river or the other side?
It was across the river.
Anna.
So there was nobody over there because it's
No.
a huge cliff or a huge
rock face right
rock
there.
face, basically. And there's lots of trees, and you couldn't really see. But it just came flying out. It didn't roll down because it didn't hit anything on the way down.
It was in
just,
midair.
It was flew out and landed.
Kerplunk.
Of the little pool that was there.
Wow. Cool.
Cool.
Yes, very cool. Thank you.
No, Gabby.
And a shake. Now she's got a stick.